Russell, I want to talk about some good news from my perspective. Nobody's saying Assad's a good guy, but the West did start the war, did fund the rebels starting 2.5 years ago. And for the first time since 1782, when the British Parliament voted to end the war against the colonies, they voted down the Prime Minister in the UK, David Cameron, wanting to go to war. Obama, he has a 9% approval rating on this war in a I mean, when Bush did all these lies, he had a 72. Now it's very unpopular. I see this as a sea change where libertarians, conservatives, liberals, everybody I know sees 7 nations they wanted to target. What is your view on Syria? Are you optimistic and excited that the UK Parliament, for the first time in 200 years, did the right thing on war?
I certainly agree with you that that vote is as a result of widespread disillusionment with the political process. I think that obviously the Middle East is one of the most complex issues in contemporary world affairs and has been for millennia. What I believe is that our focus has to be the humanitarian aspects, the displaced refugees and the hundreds of thousands that are suffering as a result of military conflict in that area. What I also believe, Alex, is that these affairs are conducted behind a veil of disingenuity and duplicity. It's very difficult for any of us to understand what's truly happening. I've not read that book you said, that Seven Nations thing, but essentially, my experience tells me that whatever they are telling me, I intuitively don't trust. It's typically about the interests of big business and government and how they align with one another. So that's what I'm going to assume until I hear otherwise. Like the claims for going into Iraq and Afghanistan were duplicitous, and so the starting point I have is going to be not to trust any advocacy of military action in Syria. Whilst it's not an issue that I can pretend to fully understand, it seems like it's extremely complex, that there are many factions fighting there. There's no clear goodies and baddies situation.
Absolutely. Ron Paul recently came out and said he basically thinks it's a false flag. There's evidence that the al-Qaeda groups staged the chemical attack, but it is obviously an incredibly complex situation.
I went through the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And I said, why? He said, we don't know. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir, he says, it's worse than that. He says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran.
Yes, these men and their hypnotized followers call this a new order. It is not new, and it is not order.